What is the most embarrassing belief you used to have? As a kid I believed garbage and litter caused tornadoes. Not really sure why. But when I saw a plastic wrapper on the ground I'd pick it up and smugly say no tornadoes happening today. I no longer believe this to be true. Because of the way my dad explained recycling to me when I was 3. For the longest time I thought it was like a trading system. I lived in China at the time, so the only recycling bin I ever saw was a big one at my school. I remember the school announcing its installation, which then prompted me to ask my dad what it was. He explained it as a special box where you put things, and then someone else takes it and turns it into someone new. I thought that the something new was something I got to have. I remember my dad putting newspaper in the recycling, and me checking the bin day after day for the something new. Breaking my graham cracker into 1/4 pieces gave me more cracker. I wouldn't tell my mom so she didn't take the extras away. That once you get your period you'll bleed every day for the rest of your life. I don't know how I misunderstood sex ed that badly, but boy am I glad I was wrong. If I watched a TV show for 8+ years while I am 7, police will come. The pool light is a trapdoor leading to the ocean and sharks can come through it and the sharks will eat me. But only if I'm in the deep end alone. When I was a kid I believed that if you took a medicine for a condition you didn't have, it would cause you to have symptoms of that condition. Like if you didn't have allergies and took Benadryl it would give you allergies. I believed this until I was like 18. In elementary school up until about 4th grade, I was convinced that Thomas Edison had invented the spoon. I took oral sex a bit too literally. As in talking sex. I thought it was like phone sex or just saying sexy stuff. That if you moved the earth 1 centimeter closer or farther from the sun that life would not survive. I think there's a little more leeway. That a G-spot was just somewhere that felt good to be touched or kissed. Like I believed my neck was my G-spot until I was like 17. I used to think that a woman would get breast cancer if she let a man touch her breasts. That every time I farted, my heart skipped a beat. White people are superior to other races in every way. I remember being obese, covered in acne, and backen and assen root, with few friends, thinking I was better than a black kid. My pops was the typical hardcore redneck racist type, and that kind of mentality really is taught through generations. I have grown up and changed so much as a person since, and my daddy is changing little by little too. Edit. Thanks for the gold. Also, I am a woman. Lol. Oh. You can wear a pad and that was your period. My cousin and I knew women got periods but weren't sure what they were. Just that we would get one eventually. We had just gotten training bras. So one day we figured we would go ahead and get started with our periods. We put a wads of TP in our underwear and basically said we were women because we had our periods. TP fell out of my pants a few times while out and about. You know how we say that hairs have roots? Well, when I was a kid I thought that it was similar to a plant. I would pluck a hair out and then try to plant it somewhere else. Usually on my fingertip. I would do my best to try and keep the hair in place so the root would set and the hair would grow there. I did this for months before I found out that it didn't really work that way. That black women made chocolate milk. I was a young, sheltered child. I thought I was white. I am in fact the son of immigrants from India, Pakistan. But I thought there were only white people and black people. I had no idea that brown people were a thing. Despite being one, I wasn't dark enough to be black. So clearly I was white. The best part was how I learned the truth. There was a large gathering of family and friends at my grandparents' house and the news was on in the background. I don't remember what was said on the news, but evidently it was something negative pertaining to race. It prompted me to dramatically wipe the sweat from my brow and loudly declare, "Boy, am I glad I'm white." There was silence in the room as everyone looked at me and then erupted with laughter. My mom explained some things to me that day. That the cartoon characters lived in the TV, I had a paralyzing fear that wolves would break through our bay window in the middle of the night and eat me. I still am sketched out by bay windows. I thought windmills used electricity to produce wind, not the other way around. That Disney World was in the clouds, and you had to take a rocket ship to go up there. I guess it was because of the old commercials they used to have. I knew that drinking and driving was a crime, but was unaware of the fact that it referred to alcohol, and thought that my parents were breaking the law while drinking pop and driving. Taking the tag off a mattress would result in my arrest. The more money someone has, the smarter. My brothers convinced me that you had to change your name every 7 years right before my 7th birthday. Up until at least 9 I thought you could get pregnant from exchanging saliva. I got worried when we were on a trip and my mom was going to use my dad's toothbrush while on a trip because we forgot hers at home. Gross in retrospect, I know, because I was afraid she'd have another baby. They really hated each other. They were never married. I was an accident. I understood all those complex concepts and knew another baby between them would be bad, but was convinced sharing a toothbrush would get her pregnant. Strange how I could understand some complexities but not others. Oh well. That the umbilical cord was called the biblical cord until my late teens. Never seen it written down and had interpreted the way it was said incorrectly. I felt like a moron when I finally found out that I believed it was biblical cord all that time. That Native Americans were like tigers because of the genocide and needed to be contained so they can get their population back on track. Man. I remember back in the mid 80s to early 90s. I was taught, and believed for longer than I care to admit, that certain bands were satanic and would have secret messages playing backwards in their music, inspired by Satan and his demons. Of course I eventually realized that was stupid and KISS doesn't stand for Nights in Satan's Service. Led Zeppelin didn't have Stairway to Heaven composed via demonic influence and AC/DC wasn't for Antichrist Devil Child. But still, I cringe to this day. Edit, spelling. When I was a kid I thought I caused the drought in Australia because I saw it on the news one day after having a long shower the day before. Beat myself up for weeks over it, aha. I didn't know that hair grew back new strands. I thought only the existing strands would continue to grow. So when I brushed my hair I would cry in my room about the hair strands in my brush and thought I was going bald and I hid the strands. Finally I told my mom and cried about it and she told me that hair grows back and that everyone sheds hairs and new ones replace it. But I thought she just told me that to make me feel better, so I still didn't stop crying till she told me if I do go bald she'd get me a wig. Oh god, I just remembered there was more to it. I knew that people with cancer sometimes their hair fell out, but I didn't know why. So I thought because my hair was falling out that I had cancer. It still took a few years to tell my parents though because I was scared and sad. That cucumbers have souls and would feel pain when their fridge mates were half consumed and returned to the fridge. Masturbating makes you go blind. That every time I took a bite from a strawberry Pop-Tart I had to swallow twice or I would die. Not any of the other Pop-Tarts. Just the strawberry ones. I was very young. That perfume were made from women's sweat. I just posted this a few days ago but it fits. I thought the Macarena was a state dance of Wisconsin because we learned it in gym class the first week of first grade after moving there from NJ. I was raised Catholic, so of course I was forced to go to church as a kid. I no longer believe practice. But every Sunday when I was a kid, I genuinely thought the priest was God. That I was smarter than most. Pee is stored in the gonads. I used to believe my ceiling fan was sentient and was trying to heal me. So to counteract this I forced my mother to put a blanket wall between me and the main part of the bedroom. I was on the bottom bunk of a bunk bed. I think this stemmed from a dream when I was little that I thought was real, in which the ceiling fan fell down and killed someone. I thought it would fall off and then turn and come at me and chop me to pieces. For whatever reason I thought it could only happen at night. If it was daytime then I was fine. Edit. These responses are telling me that maybe I should go back to this mindset. That to become POTUS, you had to duel the other candidates to the death. I believed that the TV presenters could see me through the TV. I got very embarrassed one day when, at 5 years old, I watched a show naked. I was certain that the presenters were giggling at me. I believed that if I lied to my grandmother, that God would make a tree branch fall on my head the next time I went outside. We live near the giant redwoods of Northern California. Scared the shit out of me to think I would be crushed to death by a redwood branch. That sitting on a toilet can give a person AIDS. In elementary school, I used to think my teachers lived at school and didn't have a life outside of it. I had this whole theory made up that they would roll up in the carpets to sleep and eat from the vending machines. That my ex-girlfriend wasn't cheating on me while we lived long distance apart. As a kid I thought women got pregnant when they were older. I never questioned the nature of it. I remember arguing with my mom that men wouldn't survive as a species without women but women could survive without men. She just laughed and said we did need them. I thought she mean because they were stronger or something. Yup. I was brilliant. I thought I peed out of my vag for far too long. Freaking told my Catholic and non-church going friends that they were going to go to hell cause they weren't real Christians. WTF. This was in middle school. When people speak other languages, the words just get translated to English in their heads. My parents were very right-wing religious Protestant people, so I used to hold some of their beliefs. For a while I believed like they did about Judgment Day when you have to stand before God and plays like a video of all the things you did in your life and you have to answer for them. Forget about grace or the absurdity of that or anything else. Imagine how long that would take. There are 8 billion alive people right now. Probably 15 billion dead people. Can you imagine being in a line of 23 billion people so everyone can get their life played out? I can't even stand the DMV. 23 billion people? Duck that. When I was 5 or 6 there was this neon sign on a church that said Jesus saves. I thought it was a bank. Not me. But my sir believed that the world used to be in black and white and we recently evolved into color. Seriously. He's nearly 30 years of age and not a stupid guy at all. Completely blew my mind when I found out. As a kid I saw many videos and pictures from the 1940s 50s, so I used to believe that the world was black and white and began to get color through time. That the pictures on the side of the U-Haul trucks were entered specifically because someone was moving to that state. Didn't realize they were random until I was probably 15. I'm the youngest person on my team at a pretty big corporate office, so I get justly shit on all the time due to my naivety. We had a conversation on gross sounding foods that are actually delicious. Like jello being cow bones. Ice cream having seaweed in it etc. At 25 years old I blurted out oh and gravy being turkey blood. So gross. But pretty delicious. The entire table just stopped eating. Looked. And laughed. My dad convinced me they slit the bird's throat and juiced it to make gravy. Edit holy crap. I didn't expect this comment to get so much attention. I'm glad I didn't tell the story of how my dad convinced me I would forever have a uniboob at age 12. He's a fun character. And yes, I know a sassorge isn't a type of animal. In 3rd grade, I thought that civilization had really only started after 1900. Before that was cavemen and dinosaurs. Remember in 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue? I thought it was 1942. I also thought the Revolutionary War was the Civil War. I was an idiot. Edit. Remembered another similar story. One time visiting my cousin, again. I was in 3rd grade. I saw him playing a Wii game called WWII and I thought it was a real thing. I was convinced that every person that died in a movie had actually died. Like they got a pool of actors ready to bite the bullet for the sake of cinema. I had a friend who believed this. But that they'd use death row inmates as stunt doubles. Which I guess is logical. She went on to explain that old movies have a lot more violent death scenes because they sentenced more people to death back then. Whenever we were in the car and someone opened a window on one side of the car, my mum wouldn't let anyone open one on the other side because there would be a draft. I thought she was saying a giraffe and couldn't understand why she wouldn't want a giraffe to turn up. I thought it sounded amazing. Got in trouble a few times for trying to sneakily open my window. I was about 4. That a haggis is a little mammal that lives in the Scottish Highlands. Because there are lots of mountains, they have one leg shorter than the other so that they can stand straight on the mountainside while they graze the land. Males have a shorter left leg and females have a shorter right leg. This means that they each make their way around the mountain in opposite directions so that they can meet a mate. This was a classic from my dad. There are many other similar absolute bullshit stories he told me with so much detail that I assumed they couldn't possibly be made up for comedic effect. When I was a kid, one of my friends came over to visit. He showed me and my brother a pen that had a crucifix on it and told us if we touched it we would get superpowers. So we did, of course. Then he told us now that we had touched it we would turn into vampires. We were so freaked out. And when he left and my parents asked us why we were so freaked out, we told them about being vampires. I'll never forget the look they gave us. Like we were complete idiots. At the time I was very mad at them for not being sympathetic to our doomed plight. Looking back it's pretty funny.